Right on. Hey man, what's your name? Good morning and welcome to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. That's 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. Good morning to you, Calvin. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Earl. It's a little cloudy out right now, but we'll see how the weather pans out for the day.
Yeah, man, it's not going to be bad, though. I mean, they're talking about little showers, but, 80 degrees.
Feels good today. It feels good. I think the weather be damned. It's a good day.
So by now you know who that guy is. That's none other than my co-host Sandy Williams. Sandy, how you doing, sir?
Doing well. Doing very well. I think it is a good day. It feels like a new day. I think it felt that way yesterday to a lot of people. I think that the weekend's events have been extremely uplifting to the country. I think Joe Biden did such a good thing. It was selfless. People thought, is Joe going to go? Is he going to be kicking and screaming while people discuss whether he should run or not? I think he took the right amount of time to consider it. I think the timing was impeccable, right after the Republican convention. But I think mainly what you have to look at is here's a guy who did a selfless thing and has been a very good president and is going to have now an extremely good legacy. People can look at all of his accomplishments. I think they can also look at at his action over the weekend and say that was remarkable. It was a remarkably selfless thing. I think you could project and look at the guy that's running on the other side and realize that he would never ever do anything like that. Step away from being able to run after power, take a have a selfless act to promote the public good. And I think that Mike Pence and others on the other side of the fence have stood up correctly to congratulate Joe for doing the right thing and doing something that was good for everybody.
Sandy, you and I on Friday were kind of lamenting the direction of the party in this election.
Yes.
And, Donald Trump had just garnered all kind of goodwill because of, the attempt on his life. And then the Republican convention is the pep rally that you talked about was in full force. And everything just looked like, man, this is going to be impossible to overcome. And you said a couple things.
Yeah, I remember one thing I said is you hold a pep rally Friday night before the Saturday game because pep doesn't last that long.
Yeah,
and we've already proven that. I mean, the air has left that balloon, and I think that we were worried, I guess, and when you don't know, you don't have a crystal ball. You don't know what Joe Biden's going to do. So I guess I was worried that he might not do the thing that he did over the weekend, but he did, and to be congratulated. And I think he will go down in history in a very, very positive way as the result of all that he did and what he did over the weekend. But I think also that the Kamala, I had talked before skeptically about whether she might be the right person or not based on polls, right?
right.
But there's something that happens that is related to politics, but it's also just related to events in the world. It's a feeling. It's a feeling that you get, okay? And I maybe am projecting, but I don't think so. The feeling that I'm watching other people have matches the feeling I'm having, which is extreme enthusiasm over her candidacy. Okay. I think she's going to be a remarkably good candidate. And I think that she's a breath of fresh air that people have been looking for in politics for a long time. We've had two candidates that have dominated the scene since 2016. Okay. And these two people are quite old, and we now have another generation. We've actually moved a generation down. Kamala comes from the next generation, furthermore, I think she embodies a great deal of what people are looking for. I think she's a direct person. I don't know. I'm surprised at myself because I have a great deal of enthusiasm and have a really strong positive feeling, and I sense that the world out there feels the same way.
Sandy, I'll just tell you my thoughts after during Friday, and the conversation we had, and the Republican convention coming to an end, and not knowing what President Biden was going to do, and I was resolving myself to saying, "Hey, um, you know, Donald Trump and the Republicans are going to win this," and so because I didn't see any hope, and not that Joe Biden wasn't a good man, and not that Joe Biden hadn't done great things, but I didn't see, as you stated, how he could change the trajectory of what people were feeling,
Right.
right? That just didn't appear to be anything that he could do.
Right, there was a malaise, and it was a lack of enthusiasm. All the polls said people just aren't enthusiastic. I mean, there were these issues of infirmity and age, and I'm not sure that I think Joe Biden has done terrific things, but I'm not sure he didn't win in a landslide well, I guess he did win by a lot of numerical votes, but the electoral college was tight. But I think uh, that enthusiasm was lacking, and I think that you can see now from the rate of fundraising, but also just the way people are reacting to Kamala's candidacy, that there was a latent in many people a desire to be enthusiastic, and I think they're now embracing it.
Let's go to Mark from Sussex quickly. Hey, Mark, how you doing, sir?
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call, Earl. So for the last 10 years, all I've heard is the threat to democracy is Republicans, Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. Joe Biden, I mean, how naive do you think we are? Joe Biden was pushed out. He did not decide that he did not want to run because 2 days earlier, he was all in. And now, here's the other thing, the whole threat to democracy, Kamala Harris knew his situation. And who's running the country right now? Who is running our country?
Mark, you've got, I don't know if you got the memo or you watched the talking points, but I've heard each of the things you've said spoken by others on it must be a short list. But first of all, no one has attacked Joe Biden as being incompetent. Okay, that the competency hasn't been the issue. Republicans undoubtedly were going to attack him for competency, but the 25th Amendment has not been exercised. The cabinet, unlike the cabinet under Trump, where there was actual discussion amongst the cabinet of exercising the 25th Amendment during his presidency, it has not been discussed or talked about. There are means for pushing a president out. Whether in a party, how the party selects its candidate is up to the party. But Joe Biden made this decision. I mean, do you think they put a gun to his head? How do you force someone to make a decision other than to discuss facts, to discuss and to analyze polls, to look at possibilities, to evaluate things? Uh, you know, every coach is going to be coach forever until he's fired. Okay, so the notion that Joe Biden was saying that he was going to be in the race forever. That's what you say until the day you decide you aren't. Okay, you can't waffle and say, "Well, I might be, I might not be." That's not in the cards. So I mean, I think you need. I think the Republicans need to find some new talking points because, quite frankly, I don't think these fly.
Well, to be honest, you want to talk about talking points. It's just amazing how all Democrats now jump on board that Kamala is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and exactly what you just said, Sandy. Those are all talking points. Those are all talking points that Kamala is the best. Joe is going to be one of the greatest presidents ever. And you know what? Again, you didn't answer my question on who is running our country.
Hey,
Well,
Mark.
well, I don't think I need to answer it because President Biden is President Biden. President Biden has a competent cabinet. Okay, President Biden has stability in his cabinet. Okay, President Biden has run the White House in a business-like way. How many executive staff directors has President Biden has? How many defense secretaries has President Biden had? How many secretaries of state has President Biden had? Okay. Now, Donald Trump wants to magnify that and say, well, a good leader fires people. Okay. No, I think a good leader runs an organization that has consistency, stability, and can cruise along and operate based on the competence within the administration. So, and I receive no talking points, okay? And I watch no TV news. Not a minute of TV news do I watch, okay? So everything I've expressed are my own views, and they aren't somebody else's talking points.
I don't get talking points either, Mark. And I would say, this, as Sandy just stated, is what I'm hearing constantly from all Republicans, or who, especially those who are in the media. But what does it matter? If, let's say, if what happened, what crime was committed?
I'm not saying there's any crime committed. I'm just saying, you think that we're naive enough to believe that Joe Biden wasn't pushed out?
Well, wait,
Right.
Let's just talk about mechanisms. That's like a rigged election. How do you push out a president? What do you think happened physically? I mean, I'm just interested. A fly in the room. How did he get pushed out? I mean, that's an interesting expression. They pushed him out. What do you mean pushed out? Yeah, did people come to him and say, Joe, we're not sure that you can win the election? Yeah, I'm sure that happened. Don't you think that happened?
I don't think it was a rigged election at all. You can do it any way you want. I understand that. But you tell us that we're naive enough to believe that he was not pushed out is
no.
How many different Democrats?
Nobody has said. Oh, wait, Mark. Nobody on this show has said he wasn't pushed out. The mechanism for him to realize that he needed to not run involved, I'm sure, a lot of conversations. Does it amount to a push? That's semantics, okay? I'm sure that people had face-to-face tough conversations with Joe Biden, and he had to make a tough decision, but he made it.
Mark, thank you very much for the call. 844-967-2789 is the number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with the man, Sandy Williams, on the Earl Ingram Show.
Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die.
All right. Man, I have a voice like that. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. My co-host Sandy Williams is here in his animated self today.
Apparently I over-caffeinated.
Let's go. The music.
Well, the music. It's basically last night I picked music that reflected how I felt about things. So a new day coming. It's all about kind of the bright new sunny day. So that's what it's about.
Let's go to Chad from Greenfield. Good morning to you, Chad. You say what?
Hey, how's it going? Well, speaking of music requests, you should play Real American or Stranglehold by Ted Nugent, things that support President Trump. But before
Trump is not the president. So, hey, Trump is not the president.
We refer to people as President Trump, whether he's currently.
There's only one president, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, anyways, let's give credit, first of all, to the great, wise Vivek Ramaswamy, because he called this right away. He saw it from the beginning.
Vivek. Why is Vivek Ramaswamy great?
Well, actually, I think a whole bunch of people have predicted that the candidates that come the election day, it wouldn't be Trump versus Biden. It would be a different matchup. And, I think, there are different observers who will have different forecasts. Actually, I think yours truly predicted something as well. But I'm not sure that the capacity to say something like that would make me a great Swami like Ramaswamy.
Go ahead, Chad.
He said it right on the debate, and he nailed it perfectly. And he said how it was going to happen and when it was going to happen. He nailed it perfect. But my whole point is, when I called last time and I talked to you, you made an inference after I was hung up on that I was afraid, or Trump is afraid of Kamala Harris. Nobody is afraid of Kamala Harris. She's polling just as bad, if not worse, than Joe Biden. But I'm just saying, imagine being a Democrat voter. I think Mark from Sussex made a lot of great points. But imagine being a Democrat voter. First of all, you've been lied to from all these pundits saying that they always use the keyword sharp. Did you notice that? I noticed that right away. Joe Biden is sharp. Joe Biden is sharp. It's always the word sharp. So that was the talking point.
Hey, Chad.
You're lied to there.
Hey, Chad. Why are you talking about Joe Biden? Joe Biden is not running anymore. It is Kamala Harris. Let's deal with that reality.
I am dealing with the reality, because if you're a Democrat, first of all, you've been lied to with the sharpness. Then on top of it, you voted for Joe Biden and they took away your vote. How many
now, I know you've been listening to conservative talk radio and television, because that's what they've been saying. By the way, I listen to conservative talk radio and television. Those are the exact things that they've said.
So, well,
verbatim.
I think the proof is going to be in the pudding in terms of how Democrats and the general public react to what's happened. Okay, and I think spin is kind of something of the past, and I know that spin has always been a part of politics, and I know that what you're talking about now is your spin, okay, and the spin that's been put out there. But we'll all find out how people feel about it. I don't think that there was any great secret about Joe Biden's capacity. I think that before he gave the State of the Union, people wondered whether he had the capacity. He gave the State of the Union. People gave him a pass on it. He got a get out of jail free card based on his performance there. There's been constant presentations, particularly by the Republicans, particularly in social media, about Joe Biden's capacity. There's not been lying to about it. The public was well aware of it. It's why the public was not enthusiastic about Joe Biden's potential election. It's why Joe Biden was not polling as well as he might. Okay. So I don't think that we've got a smoking gun here. Okay. I don't think that there was a cabal that was attempting to cover this up, because you know what? You can't ultimately cover this up. There is an election. There's an election season. There are debates. There are appearances. All of that is kind of smoky conspiracy theory stuff that it doesn't fly.
Go ahead, Chet.
Well, let's speak about Kamala Harris. Now, first of all, she's never gotten one vote for any kind of president. And she dropped out 6 months before the primary 4 years ago. She did not get any votes this time around. And then she gets the nomination, whatever. She's not going to win. But second of all, her rally today, I don't even think, where is it? I don't think it's even open to the public. I've been doing research.
It's open.
on it.
Listen.
I mean-
I'm going. It's open to the public. It is. It is going to be packed. Those are just facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they haven't announced it publicly for safety reasons.
Well, we clearly have a candidate now. It's going to be Kamala Harris. That's going to be the opposition to Donald Trump. Kamala Harris won a statewide election for Attorney General in California. She won a statewide election for U.S. Senate in California. I think that's either the first or second largest state in the country. I think it comprises a significant percentage of the United States population and the GDP. And she has name recognition. Now, of course, those who don't want Kamala Harris to be president will be able to discuss what it is they don't like about Kamala Harris. That's politics. That's what we're going to have. But I'm simply predicting, and that there is a sense I have that she will be viewed as a breath of fresh air, and that a breath of fresh air is what people have been looking for to breathe because the oxygen has been sucked out of the room.
So, according to Tony, every vote for Biden was also a vote for Harris. She received millions of votes. Chad, thank you very much for the call. Sandy, we're not expecting the other side to all of a sudden speak laudably about Kamala Harris.
No, I mean, actually, campaigns are all about trying to throw up on the wall the criticism of the opponent to see what sticks. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like spaghetti. Some of it sticks and some of it doesn't. And so that's what we're going to watch now, is that process. But, and my only concern is that it not go into the gutter, but my expectation
it's going to go into the gutter.
That it will.
Yeah. And so at the end of it, it's not going to change the reality. Kamala Harris is now the candidate of the Democrats for president of the United States. She's going to run against Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. It doesn't matter how many times you bring up Joe Biden's name. He's not running anymore. And the reality is what they're going to have to deal with.
Well, and the other thing is that is she going to be accused of being a loyal vice president, unlike Mike Pence, who Donald Trump ultimately allowed to have hung in effigy outside the Capitol?
All right, 844-967-2789 is the number. It's a brand new day. It's Tuesday, and that means my co-host Sandy Williams is on board, and he's all smiles. Well, so am I. 844-967-2789 is the number. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show.
It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it people wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, or the times they are a-changing. Some writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, and keep your
I'm trying to remember that voice. I know that voice.
Dylan, Bob Dylan.
Oh, Bob Dylan. All right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with Sandy Williams. And Sandy, choice of music.
Well, times are changing. I picked music that reflected how I felt last night, which was sort of ebullient, actually, looking forward.
All right, let's go to Brendan from New Jersey. Brendan, go ahead. Brendan?
You, brother.
All right, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to open up with my big wrestler thing, but yeah, I don't feel like I've been lied to. I don't know what convention they were watching, but I didn't hear anybody mention Project 2025, women's abortion rights, or anything because, well, they're lying to their party now because, hey, who wants to talk about that? It's a non-starter, okay? And the MAGA anger and the MAGA tears are filling my cup. So keep it coming because I'm looking forward to that CJ call today. You know, where they're gonna claim something. But I think the grossest thing I've seen so far is your guy Glenn Grothman actually in an interview saying that Dems are staying with Kamala because of her ethnic background. I mean, the dude put everything but a hard R on that, okay? I mean, come on, man. You guys can do better. That's all I got.
Well, thank you, man. But if you know Glenn Grothman, that's no surprise. I always referred to him as Barney Rubble, and he's not exactly the most articulate guy. He was the same way when he was with the legislature in Wisconsin. Thank you, Brendan. Let's go to Mike from Kenosha. Good morning to you, Mike. You say what?
Good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call as always. You know, I was kind of blown away by Mark from Sussex's call. You know, I have a question. Who was running the country when Donald Trump was playing 261 rounds of golf while he was on the course, while he was traveling to one of his golf courses, and requiring the Secret Service to pay inflated price for the lodging and everything else? You know, issues. Mark or CJ or anybody, let's have topics of, or let's have discussions about issues, topics that are important to all of us. You know, you talk about haters. You know, insult and grievance politics is what America has had it up to their ears with. They're tired of it. They want people to do the work of the people. If they're elected in office, then they need to be public servants and do the job that they're elected to do, not destroy or take away or tear down, but to build up our system and our infrastructure of democracy, for crying out loud. You know, it's offensive. When we went, somehow these guys turned a blind eye to the W. Bush wars in the bailouts, all caused from deregulation from the right. So, you know, and enough of this hating and you know, dooming candidates before you even have a policy discussion, before you have any knowledge of what you're talking about. But it shows to me clearly that the GOP has been taken over by this group of haters that absolutely want to tear down this country and build it in the likes of Orban and Hungary. It's authoritative and in spirit. It feels like it all over. Again, when you see who they do talk superlative and have, professional and political respect for, it's all these strongman authoritative types. So, you know what? Enough of the nonsense, Mark and CJ. Get on board. Put the country first for a change instead of your wrong policy.
Hey, Mike. Thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Tom from LA. Good morning to you, Tom. You say what?
Well, good morning, Earl. Kamala. First off, we the people ultimately are the government, and that does include all of us. So you guys over on the other side, just know that there is a place for you as well. It won't be an authoritarian dictatorship. It'll actually be a democracy because we won't have Project 2025. And for all of you callers that are calling in on the right, every time you call in, I'm donating more money to Kamala Harris. And I'm also making extra hours that I'll be walking streets for Kamala Harris. She was a great senator here in the state of California. She has ties to Wisconsin. She actually lived off of Lake Mendota when she was a young child from age 3 to 5. She does have some faint memories of Wisconsin. And the thing about it is, it was so great yesterday when Joe was on the call with her and he's like, "You go get him, kid." I mean, what a nice, you can just see the love between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the partnership that they have. And I'm just so excited and so pumped up. I am part of that $90 million that was given to her. I am against money in politics, as you know. But you know what? We live in the system that we live in. I'm not for dark money.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
You like myself and Sandy and others. Last week we were melancholy, and you were melancholy in your calls. Today, that's completely changed, and that's the impact of what transpired with that decision that was made on Sunday. It's transformed people's uh spirits, and now it's like a new beginning, and the Republicans are going to have a hard time dealing with that. Thank you very much for the call, Sandy.
Well, exactly, and that's the music I selected, new beginning music. I think it's a breath of fresh air. That's what the words I keep coming to because that's the way I feel, and I think that's the way the American public is going to feel, and maybe we can get down to discussing policies and get away from all this broad talk, broad false talk. The talk about how terrible the economy has been, how the notion that Biden is the worst president ever in the history. How can it? Donald Trump, I guess, doesn't want to be the worst president in history, so he's got to find someone else to accuse. But Joe Biden has accomplished quite a bit. There's plenty positive to talk about. There's plenty positive to do. There's plenty of hard work to be done to come up with fiscal policies that will be disciplined in conjunction with reestablishing the priorities for how we spend money.
Sandy, this, and I understand why it's so difficult on Republicans, because just yesterday, their whole stick was about inflation, crime, gas prices, age, Ukraine, grocery prices, Hunter Biden's laptop, covering up the Biden limitations, the Biden crime family in one felt swoop. That's all gone.
Well, I think it's still going to be. We're still going to have the economy discussed. It's always the economy.
Yeah,
stupid,
but the fact is, Kamala
but,
Harris, and blame her.
Well, no, but the fact is that Kamala Harris is an articulate person, and she will be able to articulate very well how very positive the economic circumstances are. And whereas there's this desire to paint a notion that America is in dire straits, okay, that somehow there's something terribly wrong with our economy, when in fact every measure of our economy is better than it's ever been. Levels of employment, levels of job creation, the decreasing rate of inflation, the solidity of the stock market. The stock market has gained more during the period of Biden than it did during the period of Trump. I mean, there's every measure that you can look at that is extremely solid and actually belies this notion, this cry of doom that Donald Trump has been running on, which is somehow that the country's in dire straits. The country is not in dire straits, and Kamala Harris, I think, will be very capable of explaining that.
Well, Sandy, when your focus is clearly on one man, and that's exactly what it's been with the Republicans, on that one man, on Joe Biden himself.
Well, I think it's because they have adopted a politics of personality and cult. And when you're in that position, I guess all you can look at is personalities, and you can attack. It's all about ad hominem personal attacks and personal discussion. But the fact is that governments and presidencies are all about policy, and I think that Kamala Harris is going to be able to bring that discussion back to policy.
Sandy, the fact that she's a woman, and I was saying to somebody the other day, talking about who the first woman is going to be as president. And Hillary Clinton's name came up. And how long ago was that? How many? 10, 12, 8 years ago. And so after Hillary was failed, nobody was talking about a woman president. That was at least maybe 8 years down the road, we would think, before in this country they would even consider that. Well, here it is now.
Well, and I think that Hillary, people look at Donald Trump and say he won the election. I think for whatever reason, and I don't think it was necessarily because she was a woman. Hillary was someone who there were a lot of never Hillarys out there, never Hillary people, including women, and
right.
including men. And so I think really Hillary Clinton lost that election. I think she had baggage. I don't think it was fairly tied to her, but I think she had a lot of baggage in running for the presidency that, quite frankly, Kamala Harris doesn't have.
So now we've got a woman.
Yeah.
A strong woman. And clearly all signs point to the fact that there are not people. America can be and has been sexist in the past.
Yes, and I think that Kamala's, I already heard one of her speeches, and it was an interesting one. She was a prosecutor, and she points out how she prosecuted people who were charged with scams and fraud, and people who were charged with sexual abuse, and people who were charged with a list of crimes that all describe
her opponent.
Her opponent.
Yes.
Okay. and I think that, quite frankly, that's a very interesting way to present the differences between them.
I don't know how suburban women who Donald Trump lost, and they were hoping he could get them back, how critically important they are. They vote. Clearly, suburban women, if they had an option to vote for a woman or vote for Donald Trump, chances are, for the most part, more than likely, they're going to vote overwhelmingly.
Well, I think, and I would attribute voting. I mean, there's obviously a gender issue there that we can describe, but I hope and think that it have more to do with policy. I think that when we look at it, actually, the Biden presidency has been a centrist presidency, just the way the Obama presidency was a centrist presidency. And I think Kamala, when we end up analyzing policies, people will figure out that this is actually a centrist, in spite of the notion that the right wants to describe the people they run against as a leftist elite Marxists. This is actually a centrist administration, and I think that's going to be very important.
All right, 844-967-2789 is the number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with my co-host Sandy Williams and you on the Earl Ingram Show.
The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast. The slow one now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. The order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later
Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. And I say, it's all right. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. And I say, it's all right.
All right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. It's Tuesday. Tuesday is my co-host, Sandy Williams, and Sandy, the music again.
Well, I felt ebullient and hopeful yesterday, and all the music reflects sort of a new day coming.
All right.
Here comes the sun.
Let's go to Lynn from Oconomowoc. Good morning to you, Lynn. Thank you for hanging on. You say what?
Well, I'm a card-carrying Democrat. I've attended meetings and conventions and voted for our representatives who do higher up elections. And I just want to make an announcement, and this goes to all people, including members of the Party of Alternative Facts. The torch has been passed. Thank you.
Hey, Lynn, we really appreciate that. You hung on the line all of that time. And so clearly, just before you go, tell us how this makes you feel as someone who is as engaged as you have been.
Well, I met Kamala in 2009 at a Senator Tammy Baldwin fundraiser. And she spoke, and she has energy and charisma and talent, and she's super intelligent. And I am excited about that. And yet I have tears in my eyes for Joe. But it's time to pass that torch. And I'm a little bit older than you. And I think young people should be making decisions now.
You know, Lynn, very well said. I want to ask you one more thing, and I think Sandy wants to ask you a question before we let you go. What are your thoughts about a woman finally having an opportunity to lead this nation?
I don't see her just as a woman. I see an intelligent, super person who is exciting and has enthusiasm. And after I heard her speak in 2009, I leaned over a friend who was sitting between us and I said, "You should run for president." And I really felt that in my heart. And I believe we will have an extremely strong leader. So I don't just see her as a woman, but as a strong leader.
Well said, Lynn. Sandy.
Well, Lynn, you expressed the passing of the torch. I think that puts into words more or less the way I felt. I think the refreshing aspect of this is that it is, in many respects, a person we've seen and know, but it is a fresh face and a breath of fresh air. And I presume that's the way you feel about it as well.
I do, and I hope she continues with President Joe Biden's progressive agenda, that we don't go back to being a more corporate Democratic group. So those are pretty much my feelings. I feel we're in very competent hands, and she will select people who are competent in their field, and hopefully we will reverse some of the Supreme Court's rulings.
Hey, Lynn, very well said. Thank you You're a very gracious person, and it's great to have you listening and calling in as well. So, Sandy, she said that she will select competent people. I'm satisfied that she's going to select competent people. You don't hear those words when it comes to the other guy. We're confident that he's going to select competent people.
Well, he's going to select loyal people.
Yeah,
I think that's. I
there's
think
a
that's.
difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we found that out in the first 4 years. He went from a period in his initial appointments, which appeared to be relatively competent. He went through several house cleanings because he could never find people who had the requisite degree of loyalty, which was apparently a much higher and more important criteria than competence. And the fact is that Project 2025 and the Republican approach to government seems to diminish the notion that there needs to be competence in government, that government needs to be run by able people so that we deliver services efficiently and ably. And I think, quite frankly, that the Biden administration has demonstrated that they're committed to competence, that we've had competence. You can look at the political appointments like Pete Buttigieg and others, but all of them are extremely competent people who appear to be highly focused on their agencies and running their agencies in a competent fashion. And, you know, Trump's criticism be damned. He said, Biden doesn't fire anybody, as if that was a criteria for the presidency. But what we don't need is someone who fires everybody.
Yeah, there has to be stability, right?
It has to be stability. Part of what people in business need, part of what you need to wake up confidently in the morning is the notion that things are stable, that things are going to be as you expect them to be, or things are going to be improving as you expect them to improve. But what you don't need is chaos and instability. And quite frankly, that is what was delivered to us from 2016 to 2020.
All right. 844-967-2789 is the number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with my co-host Sandy Williams and you on the Earl Ingram Show.
Little darling, I feel that ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, do do do. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. Here comes the sun, do 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 do. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. It's all right. what I was waiting for. And my time was running wild, a million dead-end streets. And every time I thought I got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. So I turned myself to face me, but I've never caught a glimpse how the others must see the faker. I'm much too fast to take that test. Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes. Don't wanna be a richer man. Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes. It's gonna have to be a different man.
All right, welcome back to a Tuesday edition of the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. It's 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with my co-host, Sandy Williams. Sandy, your thoughts about the music again?
Well, the music lyrics speak for themselves. Times are changing. It's a selection of various melodies that reflect how I felt last night about kind of ebullient about things going a new direction.
So, Sandy, let's talk about the VP options for the vice president and presidential nominee Kamala Harris. One thing that's certain, she's in a position, and there is going to be another younger person that she is going to have running along with her. And you know, this certainly, Sandy, with all of the conversations about people didn't have a choice, it had to be the lesser of two evils. I didn't want Biden. He was too old. Trump was too old. And there were people, Generation Zs and Xers and millennials. Hey, they're too old. I'm not voting. These people are too old. Here's an opportunity for Kamala to pick another younger person. Many of these gubernatorial guys and women are still very young people.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that the choices that she has demonstrate the deep bench of capable people that there are out there in the next generation of Democrats. I mean, the people being looked at, Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, a very important swing state, and a guy who's apparently very popular, Pete Buttigieg, who's extremely articulate. People have watched him perform over the past couple of years very competently. Andy Bashar, Democratic governor in Kentucky, normally Reds.
Of all places,
of
right?
all places, right? A very capable, well-liked guy. J.B. Pritzker, Illinois. Roy Cooper, Democratic governor of North Carolina.
North Carolina.
And he's won 6 statewide elections in North Carolina, so he's demonstrated his capacity. Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, obviously a very important state as well. And Mark Kelly's a guy with a great deal of charisma, married to Gabby Gifford, who we all know about. So, I mean, I think she's got some really good talent to look to. All of them are going to be of her generation. It's like you said, it's not going to be the lesser of two evils anymore. There's going to be some actual choices, and at least one choice I think won't look to people like they have to hold their nose while they vote.
You know, Sandy, it just for all the world, you know, I have been saying that, you know, the Democrats, you know, were not looking to the youngers people and giving them an opportunity and a chance. And even though you knew these people were on the periphery, Sandy, as long as Biden was the president, you didn't hear much about them. Certainly in the circles of where they are and other places, you heard about these people. You heard about Gavin Newsom, you know, and so that's who you would hear about. You didn't hear much about all of these other governors that were doing great things.
The Democratic bench is deeper than these. These are the people who I think are ready and willing to step forward as vice president. Gavin Newsom is the governor of a very big state and has a lot to be done there. And Gretchen Whitmer, who's been highly regarded has expressed the fact that she's not interested. So, but it's a deep bench, and I think that's again a breath of fresh air.
Well, and the difference is now we're going to hear from that deep bench more and more. Mike from Kenosha, good morning to you, sir. You say what?
Hey, real quick. Yeah, I just wanted to throw in there, my uncle had Alzheimer's, and he was really the last one to figure it out. We could all see it slowly begin to take over. And, within a few months, there was some subtle but distinct changes that we all saw. That's how this disease works. And, I'm kind of a little bit more apathetic when it comes to people in illnesses. I don't think, Biden's at anywhere near, debilitated. I think we're just seeing, some of the signs, the early signs of this stuff. And it's the smart thing and the right thing to do. Things change in 6 months. So I don't think this was a conspiracy. I don't think this was a plan. I think what we are seeing here is a gentleman and a group of people that are putting the country first, that are recognizing reality, and they're doing the right thing. Things change when it comes to Alzheimer's and mental capacity monthly. So I think, again, I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged. This is the sign of a healthy republic, when they can be open-minded and can pivot. And finally, again, we have a little over 100 days before the election. It's plenty of time to, communicate the platform and to rally the troops, if you will. Matter of fact, I don't think we should have ongoing elections perennial. So 100-day term is just fine with me. So
hey, Mike, thank you very much for the call.
Well, actually, I think the 100-day term is I think what happens with these perpetual elections is that people turn off. Okay. It's like when you're told to do something 100 times, on the 100th time you're told it, you're not listening anymore. And I think that elections that go on forever end up creating a bunch of people who are basically ignoring what's going on. And I think, therefore, that what's going to happen here is that 100 days is the time in which you can receive new information, become enthusiastic about that new information, analyze it, and just make decisions. And I think that it's going to be an advantage, quite frankly, because I think that there's going to be a willingness. The body politic has an attention span problem, and I think that 100 days is right at the outside of what that attention span can be. And I think that this is going to be an advantage for the Democratic Party.
So, Sandy, during this period of time, while the Democrats are going to be soaking up all of the news media or most of it, and the Republicans and Donald Trump are going to be struggling to get coverage, he's going to become more and more unhinged. It's pretty safe to say that's going to be his response.
Well, I think last week what I said predicted was that because the Democratic Party with a new candidate would attract so much natural attention, they would get hundreds of millions of dollars of unpaid for free public relations based on the news need to cover these new candidates, their ideas, et cetera, that Donald Trump would have to do cartwheels. Okay. And when Donald Trump does cartwheels to get attention, it's not pretty. And I don't mean physical cartwheels, but physically it wouldn't be pretty either. But no, it's going to be, I think the probability is that he will have to become more outrageous and more notorious.
All right. You conjured him up, Sandy. CJ. Good morning to you, CJ. You say what?
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call. I wasn't able to hear the show for a while. I was in a meeting, but I have seen the coronation. Probably for the most unqualified vice president and president, border czar, do nothing.
Well, before you go any further, what makes her unqualified?
What makes her unqualified? Because she's never done anything. she's put in place as the border czar and record numbers. So you gentlemen want to make this about personality. If you don't want to make it about policy, you don't want to make it about qualifications, right?
No, actually, quite the contrary. I think that what's going to happen is we're going to shift from this personality battle between two old men, and we're now going to have alternatives, and people are actually going to be listening to what policies and what platform it is that she brings forward. She was elected twice in statewide elections in the biggest state in the country. And, I think we have yet to find out all of the qualifications. But I think that it's probably a very worrisome proposition for the Republicans, because I think that there will be a great deal of attention paid. And I think there will be a substantial opportunity for the Democratic Party and the candidate for the Democratic Party to present the policies. And then we can have a conversation about policies, and then we can have a conversation about competence. But I think it's premature to reach a judgment, and I'm interested in how it is that you could already have reached a conclusion that this is the least qualified person, based on what, public service? Because of course Donald Trump was totally unqualified in that basis prior to his election as president.
Go ahead, CJ.
He kept us safe and prosperous for 4 years until COVID, and more people have died under Biden than Trump did. Of course,
Biden is not the candidate. CJ, Biden is not the candidate.
Well, I think we don't have to talk about accomplishments. Vice presidents don't accomplish much. What were Mike Pence's accomplishments? But I think what we're going to find out is what kind of a candidate she is and what kind of policies and platform are presented, and then we can have this conversation about what it is we think about it. But until then, I think it's probably premature.
All right, 844-967-2789 is the number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with my co-host Sandy Williams and you on the Earl Ingram Show.
I said that time may change me, but I can't trace time. Bright, sunshiny day. Bright, sunshiny day. Bright, sunshiny day. I can see clearly now. The rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesday is my co-host, Sandy Williams. And you, Sandy, the music?
Yeah, I picked the music for How I Felt. Bright, sunshiny day. I hadn't actually heard the Gladys Knight version of that before. I liked it when I heard it. So,
all right, let's go to John from Boaz. Good morning to you, John. Thank you for the call. You say what?
Morning. I want to congratulate you once again for your federal interview with the President of the United States of America. That's a very good accomplishment.
Well, thank you.
You know. Yes, you know that. Everybody's telling you because you know that's the truth. See, the thing is with her is she is in the right spot at the right time, and I call that the fate, F-A-T-E. Her fate is, in other words, her stars are lining up. If you're an astrologer, look at what they did to Galileo. Look at what they're doing to Sandy. Look at what they're doing to Earl Ingram.
Hey, John. So you go from Galileo to Sandy and Earl Ingram.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
He's talking about astrological signs.
I know he's talking about that.
I'm a Virgo myself. How about you?
I'm a Gemini.
Uh-huh.
But John, thank you very much for the call, man. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Bill from Oconomowoc. Hey, good morning to you, Bill. You say what?
Well, you're a Gemini with a Riviera, right? And Sandy, you and Earl deserve a 5-star, what would you call it? Citizens of Wisconsin and the country award for getting the truth out. But let me cut to the chase real fast. I think Kamala has hit the ground so fast, the Republicans' heads are spinning. They aren't even caught up, and she's raised over $1 million in a 48-hour.
$100 million.
$100 million.
Going to stop
this? Hey, Bill.
You're right. You're right. $100 million. But let me just finish. What is going to stop this lady? Absolutely nothing. I'm just telling you, as I'm telling my Republicans friends, there's a new sheriff in town, and she has no use for criminals.
Hey, Bill, always good stuff, man. Thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Mark from the Prairie du Sac. Hey, good morning to you, Mark. Your thoughts?
Yeah, good morning. I think what we're going up against now, and this is a meme I've been working out in my head and discussing, that I think this is a reworking of the Confederate ideology of in 2025 that we're up against now with 2025 and Agenda 47. And one of the things I picked up from a book on the Confederate Nation is a writing by George Fitzhugh who posited that the original revolution was wrong-headed and it was okay in its aims, but it was wrong-headed in what spawned it. And he was maintaining that the Civil War, as I see Project 2025 and Agenda 47, is a reaction to the Reformation that we saw in the original revolution. And they see that the gains we've made today. I think that this is a protest against I see 2025 as a protest against the doctrines of natural liberty, human equality, and the social contract, as talked by some of the thinkers of the time, including Locke, who preceded that, but Adam Smith, Benjamin Franklin, Tom Paine, and he went on to say the rest of the rest of the infidel political economists who maintain the world is too much governed, because I think these guys think the world is too little governed in terms of human freedom. I think it's too much governed in terms of regulations that we have, but they really object to the fact that we are striving and getting closer and closer to a more perfect union and getting closer to more human equality in our society rather than less is what they want to have. I mean, I can fully see these guys, that say, well, slavery wasn't all that bad an idea. The Romans had it, the ancient Greeks had it, the Egyptians had it, and look how successful they were.
Hey, Mark, thank you very much for the call. Sandy, you want to
it's kind of deep stuff, but I do think that Project 2025 is an effort on the part of a bunch of sort of right-wing policy wonks to try and refight the battle that went on with the founding fathers over what the Constitution would have and how the government would run. And it's going all the way back to that. And that's why they talk about it being a war, because I think they perceive that they really want to, they criticize the left for not exalting the United States. But Project 2025 is an assault on what the United States is right now, and it's a demonstration of how unhappy they are with what it is that exists in our country and how our country operates, and they want to reestablish the rules of operation to put much more power in the hands of essentially landowners. That was the battle at the time of the founding fathers. That's how it was talked about, the difference between people of means and those without. Landowning was the definition of people with means. That fight is ongoing again, and just it's being done in the cloakroom.
Yeah. So let me do this. Guys, hang on the phone lines. 844-967-2789 is the number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with my co-host Sandy Williams and you on the Earl Ingram Show.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, such a bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright,
Ready? All right. Wednesday morning, I'll talk with Dr. Robert Craig, Executive Director of Citizen Action, about President Biden's announcement and the campaign of Vice President Kamala Harris.
Can you just do it one more time?
Yeah. Wednesday morning, I'll talk with Dr. Robert Craig, Executive Director of Citizen Action, about President Biden's announcement and the campaign of Vice President Kamala Harris.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me, yeah. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea.
You know that brass coming in behind? Oh, man. It doesn't get you better than that, does it?
This is Kamala singing this morning.
Welcome back to Tuesday edition of the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us, that's in them. You know, you got a pretty wide range of music, my friend.
Well, you know, I throw a dart up on the wall.
All right. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with my co-host, Sandy Williams. Let's go to Tom from West Dallas. Good morning to you, Tom. You say what?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. I am just very curious with your conservative callers, if you can call them that, your mega callers, talking about what experience does Kamala have? What experience did Trump have? I mean, all he did was bankrupt businesses. I know he had no political experience at all. And look what he did. I mean, he never built a wall. He never lowered drug prices. He didn't decrease the deficit. He didn't drain the swamp. He didn't make COVID disappear. The only thing he did, um, uh, other than he basically he hates who you hate or who they hate, and sadly, that is what everyone thinks you need. They think they need is just to hate. He has no platform. He has no experience. It's just all about Trump and his. Wow, words stop coming to me.
Well, let me
Just,
play
you know,
let me plug some in for you. I think that Trump is an opportunist who will do whatever it takes to have aggrandized power. So he appointed Supreme Court justices at the will of others, and that's about all that he accomplished. And then there was a tax reduction, which of course Republican Congresses always want to adopt. But other than that, the accomplishments or the platform or the ideological policies are very hard to discern.
Tom?
Agreed.
All right, Tom, thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Susan from Kenosha. Good morning to you, Susan. You say what?
Hi, good morning. Sandy, I totally agree with you. About Project 2025. I believe I've been reading about the era of the beginning of the country. I read about Hamilton and other presidents of that time. And there was a struggle, a big struggle. And that struggle continues where the haves want to have all the power and they want the have-nots to remain socially
subservient. Yeah.
on the have.
Right.
Yes. And I think it's about time that this finally will come to rest. I've been reading the Federalist Papers, and I've been reading about what Hamilton had to say and John Jay and Madison. And it is really clear cut that they were at one time, and although Madison changed over, were for the people. And they explained it thoroughly, why the Constitution was set up the way that it was set up. And I think that people have to come down and actually, from wherever they are, and actually reread the Constitution, reread the Federalist Papers, and then you will get an idea of who you need to vote for. I don't want to tell people who to vote for. That's their decision. But for the sake of our country, for the sake of our Constitution, for the sake of our rule of law, and for the sake of our freedom, we must actually vote blue. But like I say, people need to read the Constitution, they need to read the Federalist Papers again, and really get an idea of what this country stands for.
Hey, Susan, thank you. Thank you very much as always. Let's go to Robert from West Dallas. Good morning to you, Robert. You say what?
Good morning. Yeah, there were a lot of terrible things, putting kids in cages, ballooning the national debt, stacking the judiciary with a bunch of people that are unqualified, according to the Bar Association. The one good thing that happened in 4 years under the Trump administration is I believe they gave leave, maternity leave or extended leave benefits to federal employees. And I don't even think that was Trump's idea. I think that was something Ivanka was pushing. Other than that, I really struggle to find any accomplishments in 4 years that were productive and actually helped the average person.
Robert, and it's not just what he did with those first 4 years. It's what his plans are for the second 4 years that should terrify everybody, right?
Absolutely. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you very much for the call, Sandy.
Yeah, there's one other. He had hospitals posting their prices. Although what happened was the rule was promulgated, but it was never enforced, so it didn't really happen. But there was a rule that would have been and could be helpful to consumers of medical care, which is that required the publication and posting of hospital prices. And these are the kind of things that actually the Biden administration has now been pushing.
But Sandy, you can talk about, again, those 4 years. We have a measuring stick of what Donald Trump has done.
Well, actually, I would, one of the things that his backers would tout would be the tax decrease. I would attack the tax decrease as being a substantial problem that was created by the administration, by his administration. It increased the deficit substantially. and it created a tax process, which when those tax decreases uh, expire for the middle class America in 2025 is going to create even more disparity in income. But the tax reduction itself enhanced and exacerbated the extreme divergence in wealth in our country.
All right, let's go back to Brendan from New Jersey. Brendan.
I just want to disagree. I think that Trump is really qualified to be a carnival barker, frequent flyer on the Epstein jet, a tax evader, a reality show host, and the puppet behind Project 2025. So, CJ, I'm right there with you.
All right, Brendan, thank you very much for the call. Let me ask you, Sandy, again. At the root of all of it is what policies is Trump going to be, talking about? What policies are he, have you heard him talking about coming if he's reelected? What have you heard him talk about?
Well, I think what's going to be most important is the policies that Kamala talks about. You can't force the other side to talk about policies if that's not what they want to do. But I think what the American public wants to think about is what is it that you want to do in your administration? What is your administration going to accomplish that's going to affect me, Tom, Dick, and Mary, and how? And my hope is that this switch that's been turned by Joe Biden by selflessly getting out of the election process and introducing a new face and a new generation is going to cause a refocus, not on personalities, but on policy. And, well, I don't think Donald Trump is capable of focusing on policy, but I do think that Kamala Harris will, and I think that will be the difference.
All right, let's go to David from San Francisco. Good morning to you, David. You say what?
All right, thanks, Earl and Sandy. I got to agree with Sandy. A couple of minutes ago, he was talking about the national debt under Trump. And when you think about it in terms of the climate change has been known about since, well, it's been discussed since the 1970s. And I guess it was 1962 when Rachel Carson wrote her book, Silent Spring. So the world, the science world has known that we're going to really need to spend money a whole different way. And the fact that Donald Trump and his polluter buddies don't want to admit that they caused the problem. So they can't afford to have research. They can't afford to have cleanup because by having cleanup, they're admitting that there was a problem. By discussing how the spill got there, it gets into lawsuits. And so their purpose has been to deny climate change based upon they don't want to admit that they were the poisoners. And so the idea of cost overruns in the budget, it's based upon the idea that they always put together a crap budget, or currently they don't even put together a budget at all. And they still call themselves conservatives, but they, this Congress under, whether it was under McCarthy or now under, who's the current Mike Johnson. Yeah, I mean, those guys, they still haven't put together a budget. They get like $10,000 a month as in salary, and they don't do their job. If they had worked for McDonald's and didn't do their job, they would have been fired in a week. And the idea that these guys, their purpose in the Constitution is to build a budget, and they've come up with every excuse why they can't do a budget, and then they go into emergency spending because of it.
Hey, David, well said. Thank you very much for the call. Sandy?
Well, Project 2025 on global warming is a particularly fascinating object for study, because what is said repeatedly in the book is, or the compendium, is that what ought to happen, according to the writers of it, is that we ought to leave the problems created by global warming to future generations and the ingenuity and the marketplace of future generations. Basically, what they're saying is we need to prosper today at the expense of tomorrow. We need to kick this problem to our grandchildren and great-grandchildren which is exactly the opposite of stewardship, right? I think stewardship, the notion is we're going to leave this place better for our children and grandchildren. We're not going to kick the problems to them and let their ingenuity, bless their hearts, solve the problem. And so it's a particularly cynical portion of the strategy that's described. And in the process of also the rest of that strategy associated with global warming is to eliminate all government uh, analysis, study, scientific study, because I guess it's a bit like the more you test, the more COVID you find. The more you analyze and study scientifically this question of global warming, the more you might find that human conduct is playing a role that could possibly be mitigated.
Sandy, it is without question Project 2025 and the fact that Donald Trump has been working diligently to separate himself from it. He really can't separate himself from it, and because his plans are to govern according to it.
Yes, I mean it's only politically expedient to try and put distance between him and that now, but after he was elected, I can assure you. First of all, it reads many parts of it read like he wrote it. Getting rid of the 10-year term for the FBI director and making him serve at the pleasure of the president. You don't think Donald Trump would like to do that? Making sure that the Justice Department can bring no prosecutions without the White House favor. Do you think Donald Trump wants to control the Department of Justice? He's already stated that he does. Uh, all sorts of parts of it are exactly what Donald Trump has talked about, wished for, and most of it is written by people who were in the Trump administration.
Well, Sandy, the education portion of it is kind of what I want to discuss before we get out of here. 844-967-2789 is the number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays and my co-host Sandy Williams and you.
And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know?
All right, welcome to what is the last few minutes of the Tuesday edition of the Earl Ingram Show with my co-host Sandy Williams. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You want to talk about somebody who was, Sandy, kind of forced out.
Yeah. This is what getting forced out looks like. Apparently, Ms. Cheadle, the head of the Secret Service, resigned today, but her resignation was called for by both Raskin,
Democrats and
Democrat and Republican. And, I guess clearly there was an accountability problem and a problem with respect to the operation of the Secret Service at Trump's rally. And I think this is probably the right thing to happen. But this is what getting forced out looks like. It's not the Joe Biden decision type process.
Let's go to Bob from Waukesha. Good morning to you, Bob. You say what?
Good morning to you, Earl. Last night I never watched your station, but I was watching MSNBC because they were going to do a Project 25 to let people know about it. But in the midst of Biden stepping down and Harris stepping in, they had a roundtable discussion. And according to them, they have heard that the Trump administration is having buyer's remorse about J.D. Vance. And the only reason he went with J.D. Vance is he took words of wisdom from Tucker Carlson and Don Jr. Now that's like me going into a bar.
It's an oxymoron. It sounds like to me. Yeah.
It's like me going into a bar and there's this drunk at the end of the bar starts talking politics with me. That because of you probably know this J.D. Vance's stance on abortion is no exception for rape or incest. And if you're a woman living in a domestic abuse household, you should stick it out. So they're going to have a real problem, hopefully, with women, especially with Vance on the ticket.
Well, thank you very much for the call, Bob. He is a wrecking ball, right? I mean, he doesn't have any tact, right?
J.D. Vance, I think he's undoubtedly an intelligent guy, but he was clearly selected because he was viewed as sort of a more intelligent and articulate mini-me of Donald Trump. He was willing to assume that role, and that was the role he's going to play, which is sort of the attack machine. If to the extent that Donald Trump isn't an attack machine, J.D. Vance was going to be a more articulate version of that. And he also, however, has this baggage. He's stated his positions. Some of them involved his how despicable he thought Donald Trump was in the past, but as well his positions with respect to women's health, and that's going to be a problem.
Sandy, we can or they can constantly talk about the side of this equation with Kamala and Democrats, but even with Donald Trump at the height of his popularity with a certain segment of the population, you're still talking 40%, 45%.
No, I mean, Donald Trump does, and J.D. Vance articulated in his book, a very good book, Hillbilly Elegy, very well articulated the problem of the disaffected middle class, blue collar workers in America. And the Democratic Party needs to pay attention to that. I think Kamala Harris will. I think, quite frankly, that the policies of the Democratic Party, the Biden administration,
they were addressing that.
Were addressing that. I don't think there were any policies of the Trump administration that addressed it, other than giving lip service to it and fanning the flames of it from a cultural war standpoint. So, the Trump administration understands the problem, and J.D. Vance understands this undercurrent that is being experienced by, in particular, white middle class, blue collar America. But they didn't respond to it with helpful policies. They responded to it with arguments and polemics that fanned the flames of anger. And I think it's the Democratic Party that these people will start listening to about policy.
So, Sandy, how do they possibly, with the independents and that 15%, 20% who has been undecided, what can the Republicans do differently now to try to gain, leverage over those independents?
Well, what I can hope for is that both parties would start addressing the needs of Tom, Dick, and Mary. And if the Republican Party wants to do that, more power to them. Because what I'm looking for is outcomes. I'm looking for an economy and an architecture to the economy and an architecture to our government programs that creates the safety net that is necessary for Tom, Dick, and Mary, so that they can live and be happy as the workers in Germany, Finland, Sweden, all across the world, Japan, all across the world are. We need to start creating that environment. And if the Republicans want to get on board, more power to them. I don't predict that.
All right. That's the one and only Sandy Williams. So thank everybody who made the show go. We'll be back on, I'll be back on tomorrow. I'm going to listen to the presidential nominee this afternoon. I'll let you guys know how it went on tomorrow. Up next, Matt Nair on air, Jane Matt Nair, and Greg Bott. Thank you, Calvin. See you guys on tomorrow.